Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews, and today I'd like to talk about a couple of new TV shows. We're in an interesting place. Two new shows have just premiered that had a couple of episodes each. I've went ahead and checked both of them out, and they couldn't be further apart in tone. I'm talking about the new series on Apple TV Plus, Severance, as well as the new series on Epix, From. Now, I'm going to be doing my best to kind of describe a lot of what my feelings of these first two episodes of each series are without getting into any major spoilers, are honestly somehow discussing this in a manner where I'm really not giving away what these are really about. Because both of these series, if I were to compare and contrast, the comparison of the two is that they kind of both have an established oddity in their universe, a sense of order and instructions and so forth that everybody is already currently living in. And with the introduction of a new character or set of characters, we are shown this kind of mirror of our world that has a very similar quality to what we live in, but with just that one little minor twist to it. And part of what that little twist is, that element of it that kind of drives it into the supernatural slash thriller slash horror slash almost Black Mirror-esque element, is why I really don't want to be discussing this, because although that would be kind of the comparison of the two, there's way more to contrast the two shows. So Severance just launched, and from the trailer of it and the poster and so forth, it looked like kind of an odd Office Space-esque thing, but without the humor, more along the lines of what if we made the Stanley Parable into a series kind of thing. And it stars Adam Scott, and the big draw for me was that it also starred John Turturro, who was, if you know my channel, you know he's one of my favorite actors.
Hello.
The office space itself is very nondescript, very minimalist, almost like its own little kind of version of purgatory, which is how a lot of us think of our offices. Or at least we used to, for those of us like myself that once upon a time pre-COVID actually set foot in them. Whereas From is a series that is written and directed by John Griffin and appears to involve a dilapidated town that's kind of broken off from the rest of the world. Try as you might, once you're in it, you'll never escape. And that's pretty much all we really glean from it, from the trailer, aside from some potentially creepy monster in the woods kind of things going on. And From stars 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗺, who you might recognize from Lost as Boyd, the town sheriff, who's kind of in charge of keeping order, and if somebody happens to stumble their way across the town line and from then on can no longer escape, he kind of is the person that introduces them generally to what's going on. And that is pretty much where I will stop as far as any kind of descriptive elements of the plot or the characters, because I kind of want to talk about things in a bit of a spoiler-free fashion, and I think that I can do that as far as describing what I liked about these shows and what I didn't, and why they are so far apart from each other. We're kind of finding ourselves in this really odd place of television right now. We have the old legacy model of 13 to 24 episodes per season, with 13 to 24 freaking seasons per show that just never seems to end. The Walking Dead, Supernatural, so on, that just drives forward with more and more characters and more prodding dialogue that just never really seems to go anywhere. It's just a lot of brooding, a lot of filler, a lot of just padding out the runtime for advertisements, and you may get some action that drives the narrative forward, but chances are it's left up to the season premiere or the season finale because, well, that's just the way the old model works. And then we have the new model of streaming services that are offering almost mini-series. It's a self-contained storyline that will take as much time as it needs to tell, but it will do it with very dense storytelling. So it may last 6 episodes, it may last 13 episodes, and that's it. It has told its story, and it has told it well. Shows like The Shrink Next Door or Midnight Mass or The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window, things like that, where we're just having very dense storytelling. And yes, I think a lot of this didn't start necessarily, but kind of gained a lot of popularity from the Marvel Netflix series. And it could be argued that those definitely went on longer than a lot of people expected, but it was still, I maintain, very dense storytelling for what might be 13 episodes in a season. A whole lot happened. It took some moments to pause, it took some moments for some downtime and to breathe a little bit, but for the most part, it kept the narrative driving forward. And from what I can tell from the first 2 episodes of each series, what we're seeing with From and with Severance is a good example of each category. Of the two shows, I would say that I greatly prefer Severance over From, and one of the big reasons for that is how dense of the storytelling it is. It does a lot of show don't tell, and for the little twist that takes the mirror image of our world and gives it that little nudge into the thriller or supernatural or oddity kind of thing, it's an extraordinarily complex little switch there. It may be kind of simplistic in terms of a 5-mile overview if I were to try and really describe what's actually going on in the series, but the actual logistics of it, the day-to-day operations, how this works, what the overall ramifications of this are extraordinarily complex. And it raises some fantastic moral and ethical questions which the show addresses. But it doesn't just do so by having one character ask another what's going on and having them strictly answer it. A lot of it, again, is show don't tell. One character may ask what's going on, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get all the information disseminated to the audience through nothing more than dry dialogue. It's going to show us a lot, and it's going to hammer home a whole lot harder. And then on the other side of the coin, we have From, which is a show that I want to be absolutely clear I did not dislike, but it really did kind of bring to the forefront shades of the old guard of TV storylines. What Severance managed to do by bringing a very complex story arc with very layered elements of morality is to kind of show it in a way that has all the information that you need as far as what's going on and how much of a head scratcher it actually was, completely resolved so that we were fully up to speed by 3/4 of the mark of the first episode. And then we had the final little twist, the little cliffhanger at the end of the episode that told us, okay, we've established what the world is, now you're up to speed, now we're going to show you how we're going to throw a new wrinkle into it, and now the storyline is moving. What it managed to do in 3/4 of an episode, From still has barely managed to do in 2 full episodes, which is just generally show us what this world is. We get a lot of hints and we get characters talking back and forth with one another, disseminating information to the audience in a way that is not quite that engaging. And we also get brought into things with the cavalcade of characters. Instead of having a small group of intimate ones that are just kind of generally showing each other the ropes, it's instead relying on a whole community of people. I submit that From would have done a whole lot better if it had actually managed to bring the audience fully and 100% up to speed with what this community was, not necessarily all the mysteries and the elements of the things that are happening out in the woods and why they have to be inside and dark, things like that, but generally what this community is, and bring the new characters up to speed along with the audience by the time the first episode ended. Having it be almost a 2-parter that spread things out and introduced as many characters as could possibly be imagined in this community. So we're finding out who these people are, but it's still kind of this blank canvas of nebulous characters. Okay, well, they're the artistic one, they're the prideful one, they're the oddball one, so on and so forth. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to us yet. And with this many characters, there's just a whole lot of brooding dialogue. Not to mention the new introductory characters in the show kind of get spread to the 4 winds. So we have one character over here, one character physically in a totally different location, 2 others over here, and when they're being brought up to speed on the rules of the town, it's kind of a weird layer of repetition. And not only is it bringing the new characters and by association the audience into the light with what's going on in the most dry methodology possible, which is 2 characters just dryly talking to one another, it does so multiple times over the course of multiple characters in multiple locations. At the risk of repeating myself, it feels greatly repetitious. Like I said, I didn't dislike From, and I'll continue watching it for a little while longer to see if maybe it rights the ship. But for the most part, like I said, I'm kind of getting shades of the old guard of television storytelling, and it's not my favorite thing in the world, not anymore. Now that I've been introduced to the possibility of having 6 episodes tell me an entire world, having 24 just kind of meander doesn't do it anymore. That's kind of how I see it right now, and that's pretty much my comparison of the 2 shows. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing my next review. Remember, next time you want to watch a TV show, first make sure that it's good and rotted.